With the body pretty much finished, I just needed to do the interior in order to finish this entire build off. Now that was quite a bit of work, so let's just start at the beginning. I prepped all the parts and then of course moved it into primer and painted most of them flat black. After applying a nice black base coat, I let that dry for a bit and then moved on to the second coat, pulling the airbrush a lot further away to make the coats go on a lot dustier to simulate a sort of textured, rougher look that kinda looks like Alcantara. For some of the other parts on the interior, I painted them in a gunmetal to act as a nice base coat for all the carbon fiber decals to go on next. A lot of the parts on the interior need to have carbon fiber decal to simulate the real ones as best as I can, so I firstly just put on some masking tape onto all of those parts and started templating them out. Once that was all done, I could move on to cutting out the templates on the carbon fiber decals from scale production, and then of course start applying those to the interior parts and pieces. I've shown the process and made a couple of videos on this process already, so I'm not really going to go in depth. I just apply some micro set decal setting solution to help the decal sit in place a lot nicer and also stick a bit better. And then once that is applied, I put the decal on, and in order to shape the decal I use softening solution also from microscale and just keep moving it and pushing it in and out until I'm happy with the result. After applying a couple more of these carbon fiber decals all over the interior parts and pieces, I let them cure for a couple of days before moving on to applying a nice coat of clear. Now the reason I'm doing it with a brush and some simple Tamiya clear is because these parts are for the interior. They will probably never be seen, and the parts that you can see from the outside are good enough with a nice sheen on them. I could have also done it with the airbrush, spent a lot of time on masking off all of the matte black parts and probably ripping off some of the decals, so in this case I took the safe route and just applied a couple of coats with the brush. Now that all of the carbon pieces have a nice layer of gloss clear on top of them, I could move on to some other details for the various buttons and modes on the steering wheel, and of course also some more buttons and knobs on the rest of the dashboard and interior. With the detail painting done and all of the decals in place, I could move on to start on the assembly. Firstly, I needed to apply a lot of photo etch parts and pieces to the interior for the floor mats, some protective plates, and other details alike. For some of the more visible parts, I decided to switch over to the Super Gold Plus. This is pretty much a super glue as well, just like the other one, just a little less strong, but for these smaller edges that is perfectly fine. And the reason I'm using it mainly is because it doesn't haze, so therefore it's ideal for these smaller details. With all of the vents now glued in place, I could move on to painting those black as well. They are a nice silver from the photo etch, but on the actual cars they are black, so I didn't really want to leave them in that bright silver finish, but just had to paint over them with the matte black. Some of the keen-eyed viewers might have noticed already, but the windshield is out again. Now, in the instructions there is a small mistake, as it shows to put the windshield in and then the dashboard afterwards, but actually if you put the windshield in, you can't put the dashboard in anymore, as that needs to go in from the outside and not from the underside. So I carefully removed the windshield and then started putting all the dashboard parts and pieces together, and had to of course replace the windshield. Now luckily there are 3 windshields in the kit, 2 already pre-cut and pre-painted, so I could just easily take out another one and replace it. I have no idea why there are so many windshields in the kit, but I'm happy there are, because otherwise I wouldn't have a windshield anymore. The main interior tub was also put in place halfway. I could then slide this piece in, as it has to lock in with that bottom piece of the interior tub in order for it all to fit together. If you put that in first, then the tub of the interior doesn't fit in, so this way I need to slide it and sort of lock it in like a puzzle piece, and then could push the rest of the interior in all the way as well before putting on the chassis piece, a couple of screws, and then moving on to the seats and the final pieces like the door cards. The door panels, seat belts, and seats are now in. The final clear part is also put in place, and this build is finished. And that's pretty much it. The final part is in place, and this build is done. Another one in the box. It's a great kit from Alpha Model. Once again, a lot of nice details on the interior and also on the exterior. If I ever have the chance to build another one of their kits in the future, I would love to do so.